interesting story about a boy's relationship with his parts, as we'll call it. We had a friend who was a single mom, and she couldn't get over the fact that her son's favorite play toy was attached to him all the time, and constantly pulling at it and playing with it and stuff like that. And I tried to tell her, I said, that's his best friend, and he knows he can count on it all the time. And she was quite amazed that this is what boys did. She hadn't had brothers or anything else like that and wasn't familiar with it. And I said, wait till he gets older and then it'll get worse, you know. But she was quite surprised, and that's probably something that men live with from the time they're born till the time they die, is sort of affection for Junior down there. Guys hate to admit that there's something wrong. And like I say, this has been their buddy. It's been with them all along. It's always done what they asked it to do when they did, sometimes when they didn't. And it's part of our manhood, part of what makes us men. And if anything goes wrong with the damn thing, whether it's your prostate or something else, we hate to admit it, and we're adverse to admitting that anything's wrong, and we don't want to go to a physician and have him tell us, oops, it's you have a prostate problem, you have a cancer or whatever. I would think with prostate cancer today, we're probably at the same stage breast cancer was at probably 10 to 15 years ago. Breast cancer was something that women just didn't talk about. And then finally, through some very good publications and a lot of women's groups working for breast cancer awareness, they got over a lot of the taboos about it and all this sort of stuff. We haven't got over the taboo part yet with prostate cancer. It's okay to have it, but just don't tell anybody. I don't know exactly when that's going to change, or even if it's going to change. I mean, with women we were changing awareness. With men we're trying to change basic character. And good luck, you know. Good luck, you know. Like I said, it's been your best buddy since you were in the womb. It's not the type of thing you talk about in the shower. Hey boys, it doesn't work anymore. You don't do that. I mean, it just isn't done, you know, and it's not going to be done. As men, we're all proud of our function. Basically, that's the scary part for men. I mean, we don't really care if we lose a finger, an arm, or a hand, or get a bad scar on our face or something like that. But boy, oh boy, when little Junior's not working, that's your whole life. And it's, you know, that's what you built your manliness on, and somebody is taking it away. And I think it'll be a long time before that changes. I was diagnosed in December 2005. I was retired and decided I should have an annual checkup. Well, it's a very good thing to avoid if you don't want bad news. And so I had the PSA test, and it was 5.5, I believe. And so my GP said, well, I better go see the urologist, which I did. And in the 6 weeks between the time I did one PSA and I did another one, when I saw the urologist, my count had gone up to 6.1, which isn't the end of the world, but still it's a significant increase over a relatively short period of time. So the urologist scheduled me for the delight of all delights, the prostate biopsy, in February of 2006. And then the result of that biopsy was that out of 10 needles, one of them showed a presence of a cancer. And then there was a Gleason score, I think about 6, if I remember rightly. And so I was presented with very limited options back then. And this particular urologist just hauled out a little sheet of paper, which he'd obviously shown a lot of people, and said, this is what we're going to do. And basically, we're going to open you up like a stuffed chicken, and we're going to take out a whole bunch of parts and sew you back together again. And you'll be in the hospital for 6 or 7 days. Talk to my nurse, and she can book the surgery. Well, I didn't really think this was quite the way to go. This was just one man's opinion. And so I thought I would expand my knowledge somewhat, and I did. Went out and did some hunting, and I had some help from friends. And we discovered that they were doing this operation laparoscopically in Rochester, at the Mayo Clinic. So I thought, gee, I'll inquire about that. And then I also realized this was going to be at my expense. And a quick investigation showed that it was probably going to cost me about $30,000 to go down there. And then who knows what other costs would be involved. So I did a bit more searching, and a friend of mine in Hamilton just bumped into this thing, that they do the same surgery in Hamilton at St. Joseph's Hospital. So I pursued that, and I was talking to my brother-in-law at the time. Turned out one of his best friends had been to St. Joseph's Hospital, had this laparoscopic surgery. 2 weeks after his surgery, he was out on the golf course. Well, this sounded a lot better than spending 7 or 8 days in the bleeding hospital. So I went down there and I spoke to the doctor. He said, yes, I would be a suitable candidate for laparoscopic surgery. And he was extremely helpful. And I had my little notepad I brought with me to ask questions. And one of the things I asked him, I said, well, when this thing's all over, what sort of a sex life I'm going to have? And he looked at me and he said, well, to tell you the truth, it won't be any better. He was honest, right out, straight, bang, boom. And so all the pamphlets that you read, all the information, you talk to your doctor, all this sort of thing, and they say, well, discuss it with your spouse. Well, obviously they don't know what they're talking about, because I didn't have a spouse. I was single. Well, and so, and I discovered that a lot of these, I was seeing different ladies at different times, and they didn't want to lead a celibate life. And this was very important, to them, and also to me. I think it's a different situation if you've been married to the same woman for 45 years or 50 years or whatever, and she understands that this is happening, good enough. But when it's people that are relative strangers, you can't expect them to understand that situation. So anyhow, that was one of the reasons I chose the laparoscopic surgery, because it was, we'll call it minimally invasive compared to the conventional open you up and zip you up with a zipper surgery. I had a couple of pictures of myself right after the surgery, and all I had was 2 little bandages over my stomach where there was a bit of a scar behind there, and that's it. And to this day, I've got just tiny, tiny little scars, and that's the treatment I chose. At the time, I was 65. I think if I was more than 70, I might have chosen a different, like a radiation treatment, perhaps. My concern with the radiation treatments, whether it be brachytherapy or the external radiation, was that if it didn't cure the prostate cancer, if it didn't get rid of it all, then surgery is very difficult. And then there's no question that after the surgery that you have to repair anything that's not necessarily caused by the radiation therapy, but a side effect of it, we'll say, any surgery you have to correct that is probably going to leave you impotent, incontinent, which, is something I don't think anybody really wants to face. So my experience with the laparoscopic surgery was very good. I think for myself, I think it was a good choice. I don't know if I would recommend it to everybody. Your surgeon, your GP, the urologist, whoever you see, has a favorite way of doing things. They all have ideas. It's what they went to school for. It's what they're trained in. And in some cases with the surgeons, it's what they're good at. In my situation, I was 65. And from what I've seen, I was a pretty healthy 65 compared to a lot of people. I looked forward to a life ahead of me that I didn't want to have the chance of this cancer spreading. So I opted for the surgery. For me, that was the most comfortable thing. I have a son who is probably going to have prostate cancer. His odds are terrible. And I keep telling him, keep in touch. Keep up with what's there. Change your diet a bit. because it may come in 5 years or 10 years that you're going to have to make a decision. And if you're prepared, then you'll be, say he's going to be 50, 55. He'll be at an age when testosterone levels are still high enough that it encourages the cancer to grow, and he'll have to make a decision quickly. Well, if he's thought about it now and kept up with his PSA and kept his diet good and all that sort of stuff, if he does that, he may never have to face it. But if he does, at least he'll be prepared, and he will be aware. And by then, who knows, maybe the cryogenic labs in Calgary will just be right on the top of everything, and it'll be the treatment of choice. Now, I think if I'd had a spouse, there'd be a different involvement. I think a person would be wise with a spouse or a partner to spend some of that time, instead of just rolling over on your side and going to sleep, of just lying in bed when it's quiet and there's nobody bugging you, and just sort of consulting with your spouse and tell her, shit, I'm scared shitless. You know, I mean, it's scary. I mean, any major surgery is scary, but I think for a lot of people, they would think, especially if you were younger, say you were 50, and most men that get prostate cancer in their early 50s, that it's a more virulent cancer. So, and they would be more likely to have maybe teenage kids or younger. And this would be a frightening sort of a thing to think, holy mackerel, not only I might be wearing diapers and be as impotent as hell, but I might be dead. So that's a serious consideration, I think, for a person in that position. I just looked at it as, however you want to put it, the guy with the gold G on his pajamas up there, he deals you a card, and it's up to you how you play it. And my thought was, this is what I was dealt, and this is how I'm going to deal with it, and
everything's good.
Everything's as good as it's probably ever going to get.